what is meaning? Well, there's the simple ones, right? Like family and loved ones and companionship and community and finding something that you enjoy doing that, you can do that seems bigger than you or bigger than yourself. But meaning, like the meaning of life, what is meaning? And it's one of the things that gives people so much existential angst. And I think is the cause of a lot of despair because there's no real answer.
Well, you can question it.
Yes.
But the thing is that that's one of the dangers of rationality, is that, see, the Egyptians associated, the Catholics did this to some degree too, they associated rationality with a proclivity to malevolence. Partly because rationality tends to fall in love with its own productions. Intelligence has this like inbuilt arrogance. And the Egyptians in particular were really insightful. They tried to replace the idea of intelligence as the highest virtue with the idea of attention as the highest virtue. This is something Aldous Huxley knew. He wrote a book called Island. And Island was an island that was populated had a lot of birds on it, and the birds could talk, and all they did was say, pay attention, to remind everybody on the island to pay attention all the time. But you can undermine your sense of meaning and you can question it, but the best thing to do is to actually pay attention to when it manifests itself, because it's a phenomenon like color or like love or like beauty. It exists. It isn't something you create. It's something that you discover, and you can discover it. You just have to watch. Like you're ignorant about yourself. You think, okay, well, I've told my clinical clients to do this, and my students says, watch yourself for 2 weeks. Just watch like you don't know who you are. And notice when you're doing something that you're engaged in. It's like you'll see it. Maybe it's only 10 minutes because your life is pretty out of balance, but you'll see that, oh man, I was engaged in something there for 10 minutes. It's like, why? What did you do that was right, that engaged you? You were in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing for a few minutes. What was it? What were the preconditions? There's this line in the New Testament. Christ says, the kingdom of God is spread across the earth, but men do not see it. And that's what it refers to, is that you wander into paradise now and then when you're engaged, when you're deeply engaged in something, but you don't notice it. You don't think, oh, look, I'm in the right place and everything's working out right now. It means I've got it right somehow. And then I need to practice being there more and more and more, which is, well, that's the appropriate thing to try to practice. And that's to come to some negotiated, what would you call it? It's to come to a negotiation with that intrinsic sense of meaning and to realize it as a fact rather than just as an opinion or something that's secondary. Because it's not. It's an
alien concept for people, though, to be so aware of who they are and what they're doing, they could recreate that. So when they do feel that feeling of meaning, that they could figure out a way to get back into that state, and what were all the extenuating circumstances, and where was my head at? What caused me to have this feeling like things were right?
Yes, well, it's like someone gives you a gift and you think, well, I'd like that gift again. It's like, yeah, well, you have to figure out what it was that you did to deserve it, so to speak. And yeah, I know it requires a fair bit of careful reflection, but it also requires that ignorance, is you have to think, well, I don't know who I am. I'm going to find some things meaningful. What are they? They might not even be things you want to find meaningful. They might be things that you might even be ashamed of. Because sometimes people are interested in things that they don't think that they should be interested in. Like maybe you'll have a guy who was this is kind of a cliche, but who was socialized to be a real tough guy, and he finds out that he's kind of interested in art or aesthetics. It's like, well, he's ashamed of that because maybe it's too feminine or whatever. Well, it doesn't matter, because that's actually that's actually something that's speaking to him from the core of his genuine being. He's going to have to pursue that. Or you might find, that someone who's really agreeable and kind of a pushover stands up to someone just once at work, says what they really think, and then they realize afterwards, wow, that was exactly right. Then they think, oh my God, I've decided when I was a little kid, maybe they had a harsh father, and they decided when they were 4, I'm never going to be angry in my whole life. There's something wrong with aggression. So they've gone out of their way their whole life to be free of conflict. And then they find out that one day they stand up for themselves, that whole domain that they'd parsed off as inappropriate actually contains exactly what they need to put themselves together. But you find what you need where you least want to look.